why object-oriented programming is so difficult. Hello friends, today I want to discuss why object-oriented programming is so complex, difficult and hard. I think object-oriented programming is still very important if you are working some enterprise level applications. So we have to use the good techniques provided by object-oriented programming, especially if you are using C# or Java, those kind of technologies, those object-oriented programmings. So why object-oriented programming is very complex and hard, takes time to learn. I would not go into my personal reasons or excuses that I did not learn object-oriented programming during my college times. I started my career with procedure programming. When I started learning object-oriented programming, there were no design patterns book were available to help procedure-based programmers to shift towards object-oriented programming. I want to discuss the overall why object-oriented programming is difficult. First thing, object-oriented programming is difficult. Put in comments what do you think about object-oriented programming. Did it take some time to learn? I remember for a couple of years, me and myself friends, we used to ask each other what is interface, and we had no answer for that question. Even though we knew how to declare interface, how to use interface, we did not know what is polymorphism, what is interface based programming. You can say we were not designers, we were programmers. To answer what is interface, you have to be a designer. In fact, when I was interviewing people, I used to ask a tricky question about interface based programming. That has told me, oh, this guy is designer, architect, not a programmer. So let's go into reasons why object oriented programming is hard, complex and difficult. The first reason is object oriented programming is easy when it comes to entities. Oh, there's a noun, there's a person, there is a customer, there is an invoice. But it becomes difficult. It becomes very difficult once you go beyond entities. Okay, customer pays the invoice. We have to bill the customers. Where does this method go? So it took for some time for us to realize, oh, you need to have some process classes, some interaction classes. This functionality could go to some controller classes which manages these entities, and okay, you take customer employee, you take a customer and you take invoice and you bill the customer. You can do in the controller, you can create your own process classes. It takes times to figure it out. Another second hard thing about object-oriented programming is you don't get the object-oriented model right first time. A lot of us, we want to be perfectionists, we want to have things done beautifully first time only, and object-oriented model doesn't work that way. There is nothing called a perfect object-oriented models. There's a good object-oriented models and they evolves. So the good practice is develop some object-oriented model and make sure we have written unit tests so that if we make changes, nothing is broken. So the third reason why object-oriented programming is hard is because of the level, because of the reference, association. You can have a cycle and you can have wheel class reference to the wheel class, and wheel class can have reference to the cycle. I think when it comes to that circular references, we get confused. I think our mind is towards more linear. Okay, there is a cycle, there is a tires, So first this method is executed, this method is executed, then this method is executed, and then that comes object-oriented programming. You can go any deep level, multiple levels, and you can transverse from parent to child, grandchild. You can go back. There we get confused. You may say in procedure level programming we also have recursion, those kind of in database we have self-reference integrity, but those are exceptions in those cases. However, in database this circular reference is very common. Another thing is it takes time to understand. Understand interface based programming, how to create a pluggable components, how to create a dependency injection between these layers. Again, it takes a different level of thinking. You have to really work on several layers to figure it out. As I told you, interface, couple of years I couldn't explain what is interface. And I remember, like, when I moved from procedure level to object-oriented programmings, there were interviews I did, and I gave answers, like I gave 50 answers, and finally they asked me what is interface. I couldn't answer, and I did not get interview. At that time I did not understand what happened. Out of 50 I gave 49 question answers correctly. Only I couldn't explain interface, and I lost the interview. Now I understand that if you are saying you are a designer and you don't know interface, nobody is going to believe that. So as another thing I said, so I think the object-oriented programming is very great. Another thing is object-oriented programming is you don't get immediate returns if you have started building object-oriented system. So it is very painful thinking about classes, how the interaction goes to which classes. Like a procedure based, you can have a one file and write all the code from start to end. Whereas an object-oriented, okay, how many classes I need, which responsibility goes to which class. It takes a lot of thinking, and there is no immediate return on this hard work. You get return when that system goes to the production and you are doing the maintenance. Then you see the beauty of object-oriented programming. You are making changes in one place and nothing else is getting broken. I have seen system where object-oriented programming was not used properly. You fix one bug and 10 bugs are introduced. And in object-oriented programming, that is the advantage. The maintenance is easy. Most of the time, if you are going to change invoice save logic, chances are there it would be in one class, one method, and you would make that changes. And if you have defined your object-oriented single responsibility patterns properly, and you have written automated unit tests against your classes, so you should be able to test it more nicely. So friends, today we discussed why object-oriented programming is difficult. Object-oriented programming is difficult is because of defining model is it takes time to define the model. You don't get model right first time, and a lot of us are perfectionists, we don't like that. And having a reference and a tree kind of structure, self-reference, that again add complexity. And the finally like initially there's a no immediate return, there's a lot more work. And adding to another thing is different languages offer different object-oriented programming support. In fact, C# and Java, they don't give you multiple inheritance, and inheritance has its own advantages and its own disadvantages, its own complexities. If you don't use inheritance properly, it can make your code very complex. So thank you very much friends for watching this video. If you like this video, Like it, share it and subscribe to this channel for your regular updates. Thanks for watching.